Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. The UN has urged Israel to call off any forced evictions in occupied East Jerusalem, warning its actions could amount to war crimes. The statement by the UN Rights Office comes as thousands of Palestinians packed into Al-Aqsa Mosque in support of Palestinians facing eviction by Jewish settlers. European powers have already warned that continued Israeli settlement expansion will damage the prospects for a viable Palestinian state. In Vienna, world powers have held the fourth round of talks aimed at reviving the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Following the meeting, a Russian delegate, Mikhail Ulyanov, tweeted that the participants agreed on the need to intensify the process. He said all sides seem to be ready to stay in Vienna as long as necessary to achieve the goal. Pakistan says it is committed to safeguarding the sovereignty of Saudi Arabia and defending the two holy mosques. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa met Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Jeddah. In a statement, the military's media wing says the Crown Prince acknowledged Islamabad's role for regional peace. Japan has extended a state of emergency in Tokyo and 3 other areas until the end of May to stem a surge in coronavirus cases. In Nepal, doctors have warned of a major crisis as daily coronavirus cases hit record levels. India, meanwhile, has reported a record single-day spike in infections and deaths yet again. Here in Pakistan, the virus claimed 140 lives and infected nearly 4,300 people overnight. Globally, there are now more than 3.2 million deaths and over 156 million infections. And in cricket, Azhar Ali and Abid Ali scored centuries as Pakistan ended the first day at 268 runs with a loss of 4 wickets in the second test against Zimbabwe in Harare. The visitors are leading the 2-match series 1-0. Those are the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. The UN has urged Israel to call off any forced evictions in occupied East Jerusalem, warning its actions may amount to war crimes. Speaking to reporters, UN Rights Office spokesman Rupert Colville said transferring civilians into occupied territory is illegal under international law. The statement by the UN Rights Office comes as thousands of Palestinians packed into Al-Aqsa Mosque in support of Palestinians facing eviction by Jewish settlers. Earlier, Israeli forces killed 2 more Palestinians and detained 10 others in the occupied West Bank. Clashes in Sheikh Jarrah continue as Palestinians risk losing their homes in forceful evictions by the occupation forces. Muslims around the world are marking International Quds Day in solidarity with Palestinians against Israeli occupation. Palestinians are observing the day amid fresh forced evictions from Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. Ahead of the day that is marked on the last Friday of Ramadan, Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif branded Israel an apartheid regime. In Iraq, many paraded in the capital Baghdad, chanting slogans against Israel and the US. In Pakistan, multiple rallies were held to voice support for the liberation of the oppressed Palestinians. Meanwhile, pro-Palestine activists from Afghanistan say the day aims to raise awareness about the Palestinian cause. Pakistan says it is committed to safeguard the sovereignty of Saudi Arabia and defend the two holy mosques. Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa met Saudi King Salman bin Abdulaziz and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Jeddah. In a statement, the military's media wing says Crown Prince has acknowledged Islamabad's role in regional peace. The Crown Prince said both nations will continue to work for the stability and betterment of the Muslim community. ISPR said the two sides also discussed regional security and developments in the Afghan peace process. It said matters related to bilateral defense, security and connectivity were also discussed. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Imran Khan is set to begin his three-day visit to the kingdom today. Amnesty International member staged a candlelit vigil in Portugal to highlight human rights issues in India. The vigil was held ahead of this weekend's summit between India and the European Union in the Portuguese city of Porto. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will participate remotely due to the worsening COVID-19 crisis in India. Amnesty officials called on the European leaders to urge Modi to respect human rights. They said critics of the Indian government from every walk of life are being suppressed.
What we want is the European leaders to call to the Prime Minister Modi to respect human rights and to respect human rights defenders. Not only respect them, but also count with them on the solutions we need to deliver in India to address the COVID-19 tragedy that we are seeing right now happening there.
The Taliban have accused the Afghan government of genocide in Helmand province. In a tweet, the group's spokesperson Sohail Shaheen called the killing of civilians in airstrikes a horrendous crime. He said the world and human rights organizations must take note of what he called the Helmand massacre. But the Afghan Defense Ministry says it killed 8 Taliban, including 3 commanders in the airstrike. In a tweet, it said the Taliban deputy governor for the province and 2 other terrorists were injured. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said the process of removing all contractors from Afghanistan is underway. Talking to reporters, Austin noted the contractors could renegotiate their contracts in the future. In Vienna, world powers have held a 4th round of high-level talks aimed at bringing the U.S. back into the nuclear deal with Iran. Both the sides have signaled a willingness to work out the major stumbling blocks. Following the meeting, the Russian delegate said the participants agreed on the need to intensify the process. In a tweet, Mikhail Ulyanov said the delegations are ready to stay in Vienna for as long as necessary to achieve the goal. Meanwhile, Iran says the steps taken so far during the negotiations are promising. It said that the talks in Vienna are being pursued within the framework of the principles set by Iran. Saudi Arabia has confirmed that the talks with Iran have taken place in an attempt to reduce tensions, but the foreign ministry cautions it is too early to judge the outcome, saying Riyadh wants to see verifiable deeds. The comments are the first public confirmation from Riyadh about the two rivals holding direct talks. Earlier, Iraq said it had hosted more than one round of talks between the two regional foes. In an interview, Iraq's President Barham Saleh said the first round of talks took place early last month. Diplomats hope the opening of the direct channels between Iran and Saudi Arabia will de-escalate hostilities across the Middle East. India has reported the world's highest COVID-19 cases again as 414,000 people tested positive overnight. The country also recorded 3,980 deaths in the past 24 hours. Globally, there are more than 3.2 million fatalities and over 156 million cases so far. More in this report.
As India's COVID-19 crisis continues to worsen, Poland and the Netherlands and Switzerland have become the latest to send aid. The country's vaccination rate has fallen dramatically due to a lack of supplies and transport problems. With infections spreading from overcrowded cities to remote rural villages, more regional authorities are rolling out lockdowns. Amid the havoc, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is pushing ahead with a $1.8 billion parliament revamp, including a new home for the country's leader, while hospitals plead for the life-saving medical supplies.
We have been trying to find a hospital bed for the last 3 days, but failed. What should we do? We hoped the hospital would take us in, but we were told that they lacked oxygen and beds. What can we do?
The United States says it has administered nearly 252 million doses of vaccines and distributed over 324 million jabs. This comes as the World Health Organization warned of a new wave of COVID-19 in Africa due to the delayed supply of vaccine, a slow rollout, and new variants. Meanwhile, Russia has authorized a one-shot Sputnik Light version of its vaccine for use. The move could help vaccine supplies go further in countries with high infection rates.
Today are vaccines which are all well known. Today Sputnik Light joined the list. Our vaccines are based on the technology and platform which have been in use for dozens of years. They're up to date, and today our vaccines are the most reliable and among the safest. As one of the European specialists said, they are reliable as a Kalashnikov assault rifle.
England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty said COVID-19 is unlikely ever to be eradicated. He said the outlook for the pandemic remains pretty bleak in the medium term. Over in Japan, the government is seeking to extend the current state of emergency in Tokyo and 3 other prefectures until the end of May.
In Pakistan, 140 more people have died from COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The Health Ministry says the death toll has risen to 18,677. The ministry said about 4,300 people tested positive overnight. The caseload has crossed 850,000, out of which more than 747,000 have recovered. The ministry said there are over 83,000 active cases in the country. It noted more than 5,100 of them are in critical condition. Myanmar's military says it seeks stability in the country before allowing a visit by a Southeast Asian envoy. The visit of the ASEAN envoy is part of a 5-point consensus agreed by regional leaders last month in Jakarta. In a statement, the junta said whether it follows ASEAN's suggestions or not will depend on the situation in the country. Meanwhile, security forces have arrested 3 more members of the National League for Democracy in Yangon. Pro-democracy activists are holding fresh protests in the capital Naypyidaw and elsewhere. Local media reported at least 7 people have been arrested amid a crackdown in Yangon's Tamwe township. According to an advocacy group, security forces have killed at least 772 civilians since February 1 coup. More stories to follow. We're right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The US says it is committed to keeping the door to NATO membership open to any willing country that meets the criteria. The comments came after Ukraine asked the US and the EU for an accelerated entry into the alliance. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said aspirants need to be able to contribute to security in the Euro-Atlantic area. In a press briefing, she noted that Secretary of State Antony Blinken is currently in Kiev to affirm US support for Ukraine. Earlier, Blinken said the US could increase security assistance to Ukraine after what he called Russia's reckless actions. The Scottish National Party has enjoyed early successes in the crucial parliamentary election. Unofficial results show the SNP won 10 of the first 11 seats. The ruling party needs to gain at least 4 more seats to win an overall majority of 65. But it may rely on the backing of the pro-independence Green Party, which took 5 seats in 2016. The results could determine the future of the United Kingdom, with the SNP pushing for another referendum on independence by 2023. Counting will continue throughout Friday, with a final result expected on Saturday. Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party has won a new seat in the Parliament in England's Hartlepool. The UK says its naval ships are preparing to return home from Jersey after French fishermen ended their protest. London said the situation is resolved for now, but Britain remains on standby to assist Jersey. Jersey's External Relations Minister Ian Goss said discussions with the French crews had been positive. The UK government said it agreed with the Jersey government to call back both its ships. UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson said he was pleased the situation in Jersey has been resolved. He said the UK will always stand resolutely by the people of Jersey. French fishermen say their rights are unfairly restricted by licenses issued under the Channel Islands new system. In Maldives, former President Mohamed Nasheed is in critical condition after undergoing multiple surgeries following a bomb attack on Thursday. Doctors say Nasheed's surgeries were successful, but he remains in intensive care. He was wounded when a bomb attached to a motorbike exploded outside his house. 3 of Nasheed's military bodyguards also sustained minor injuries in the blast. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. In Brazil, at least 25 people, including a policeman, have been killed in a shootout in Rio de Janeiro. The incident took place during a police operation against drug traffickers. Police said the gang also robbed trucks of cargo and held up commuter trains to steal from passengers. Police Chief Ronaldo Oliveira said it was the deadliest operation in Rio State in 16 years. Authorities said they have arrested at least 10 suspects. Police displayed an arsenal of seized weapons at a news conference, including 6 assault rifles and 15 handguns. The UN says over 17,000 people in Burkina Faso have been forcefully displaced from their homes in the past 10 days. This comes after 45 people were killed in a series of attacks by unidentified armed groups. The UN Refugee Agency says the security situation in the Sahel region is leading to a displacement crisis. Attacks by armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS in West Africa have been rising sharply since the start of the year. Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso have been hit especially hard, with civilians bearing the brunt. Last week, 2 Spanish journalists and an Irish citizen were killed in an attack in eastern Burkina Faso. Protests in Colombia marked their 9th day with groups of demonstrators in the cities including Bogota and Medellin. Marches around the country have been marred by violence in which 24 people have been killed. Officials say after a violent night in Bogota earlier this week, things calmed overnight. Protesters intermittently blocked a major road in the city's north, encouraging stopped vehicles to honk in support. Industry groups warned of gasoline shortages across the country following roadblocks. International Business Machines Corporation says it has created the world's smallest and most powerful microchip. IBM's new chip uses 2-nanometer process technology and is a huge leap forward for the components used to power appliances. The company said the chip is designed to achieve 45% higher performance and about 75% lower energy usage. It said the new chips are roughly the size of a fingernail, containing 50 billion transistors, each about the size of 2 DNA strands. The chips are expected to go into production by 2025. Sydney's Taronga Zoo has unveiled one of its newest additions, a rare short-beaked echidna puggle. It is the 10th puggle born at the zoo's echidna breeding facility. According to the zoo, the puggle is estimated to be about 7 months old. The puggle is yet to be named. Echidnas are classified as monotremes, one of only 2 egg-laying mammals in the world. In France, a proposed law barring young Muslim girls from wearing the hijab has sparked anger and inspired a social media campaign. Details in this report.
16-year-old Mariam Chirac wears the hijab because of her religious devotion. But a proposal by the French senators might soon deny her the freedom to do so in public spaces. The amendment to a so-called anti-separatism bill has proposed a ban on the hijab for girls less than 18 years old. The measure has drawn outrage, while an online protest under the hashtag Hands Off My Hijab is going viral beyond the borders.
I hope that this won't pass, so I can continue wearing my hijab in public spaces. I also hope that those debates around us stop in the future, and that people stop trying to dictate our beliefs, and that there stops being attempts to take our rights from us and control our beliefs, our choices, and our bodies.
France, home to Europe's largest Muslim minority, prohibited the wearing of headscarves in state schools in 2004. In 2010, it also banned Muslim women from publicly wearing the niqab, the full-face Islamic veil.
Even if we want to wear pants on our head, we do it. If we don't want to wear anything on our head, we do it as well. It is our choice and nobody should tell us what to wear or what not to wear on our heads. It goes for clothes, for what we want to do with our lives, for sports, for work. It is not others' place to tell us what to do.
A joint committee from Parliament's two chambers will debate the amendments, and they may yet be scratched from the bill.
In Pakistan, roadside soup kitchens in Islamabad feed tens of thousands of people iftar, the evening meal with which Muslims end their fast in Ramadan. More in this report by our correspondent, Minahil Ahmed.
Moin Khan is living through one of the most challenging times of his life. Like many around the world, the financial impact of COVID-19 restrictions has pushed even a day's food out of his reach. But in Ramadan, he too gets to relive his heydays thanks to the iftar soup kitchens set up across Pakistan by relief organizations and philanthropists. At several points, dinner is also served.
Due to COVID-19, I have been struggling for work for a while now. This iftari has been a huge relief for me. I am grateful to the organizers.
The homeless, vendors, guards, laborers, taxi drivers, and even those who are not fasting are welcome with love and respect. Dishes served include traditional delicacies, fruit salads, dates, and juices.
We all come together and cater to 300 to 400 people every day. I believe this is the true essence of Ramadan and Islam. This is what our religion and Prophet, peace be upon him, has taught us.
Roadside iftars are one of the most heartwarming scenes to witness during the month of Ramadan. A sense of belonging and unity can be felt as hundreds gather and break fast together. Manahil Ahmed, Indus News, Islamabad.
Sotheby's is holding a jewel-studded sale next week. An Italian tiara and Kashmir sapphire will feature at the auction in Geneva. More in this report.
A tiara was passed down through generations of Italy's royal family will be among the highlights at the Sotheby's auction in Geneva next week. Dating to the second half of the 19th century, the tiara was a wedding gift to Maria Vittoria del Pozzo. Upon her marriage in 1867 to Amando I of Savoy, later King of Spain, the tiara features graduated scroll motifs set with diamonds and natural pearls, and is on sale with an estimated price of $1 million to $1.5 million.
Absolutely. So the tiara is set with 11 natural pearls, like drop-shaped natural pearls, the largest one being 20 millimeters length, so quite important by its size. And it's quite rare also to have a collection of natural pearls set in the same jewel.
The May 11th sale also includes a 1930s sapphire and diamond brooch featuring the largest cashmere sapphire ever to appear at auction. At a 55.19 carat oval gem, alongside a cashmere sapphire weighing 25.97 carats. It is estimated to fetch $2 million to $3 million.
And they were discovered at the end of the 19th century, and the mines were only exploited during a very short time, over 20 years. And it's a mine which is today extinguished. So the only way to find them is to buy them at auction.
A Harry Winston jewelry set with a diamond fringe necklace with 280 carats, necklaces of diamond and sapphires of 111 carats and 126 carats, and Columbia emerald brooches and earrings are also up for auction.
The Virgin Hyperloop is a transport system that pushes the pod down an almost air-free vacuum tunnel to its destination. Get an exclusive look inside the futuristic pod in this report.
In the desert just north of Las Vegas, a long white metal tube sits at the base of the mountains. It is the hub of operations for Virgin Hyperloop, a magnetic levitation form of transport. The 28-passenger pod will differ from the prototype at the Las Vegas site not only in its size, but it will use a magnetic push from the top rather than from underneath the pod.
Where we're going from a 2-passenger pod to ultimately the 28-passenger pod, and show that connection from our first prototype all the way to the commercial system that we're building today.
Virgin believes the Hyperloop will be the first form of transport in 100 years to revolutionize travel.
You'll start to see, I'll say, a number of projects in like 2027 and 2028 and 29, and then commercial operations in that time frame for multiple amounts of people or mass amounts of people. So I would like, it's like the decade of Hyperloop, right?
The Hyperloop will be displayed to the public at the Smithsonian Historic Arts and Industries Museum's Futures exhibition in Washington, D.C.
It's time for a short break. We'll be back with more stories. Stay tuned. And now the business updates. Pakistan and the United States have agreed to boost their trade and investment relations. Prime Minister's advisor on commerce and trade says he held a virtual meeting with U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai. In a tweet, Abdul Razak Dawood said the two sides discussed the expansion of COVID-19 vaccine production. The advisor said they also mulled over vaccine distribution for the developing countries. He said the two sides will continue dialogue under the Pakistan-U.S. Trade and Investment Framework Agreement. China has extended its impressive trade performance in April as America's speedy recovery from the pandemic spurred demand. Chinese customs authorities said Beijing's exports have surged over 37% than last year. This also beat the forecasts by the analysts of 24% growth. Stalled factory production in India due to COVID-19 had also boosted the global Chinese market. The numbers helped push the stocks in China and other Asian markets higher. The U.S. stocks have hit record highs despite a weak April jobs report. The Labor Department said non-farm payrolls increased by over 200,000 in April, far less than the 1 million expected. Surge in the shares of Microsoft, Apple and Facebook bolstered Nasdaq Composite, which traded over 1% higher. The indices of S&P 500 and DJI also followed suit, trading under 1% up. Meanwhile, the oil prices were set for a weekly gain against the backdrop of optimism over a global economic recovery. And now the weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. With the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus News.